Well, welcome to the marketing session this afternoon. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker, who I, in fact, met almost 6 years and 2 weeks ago to the date, because she is the person responsible for me having this job in the most indirect way possible. Megan Beckmeyer, who is your speaker, and I were the subjects of a story about working moms in a local newspaper, and we met for the first time that day. And she had a friend who worked here. They crossed paths. He saw the story and asked about me. She suggested he reach out to me. His name was Dave Levin. He did reach out to me, and 2 weeks later, I started working here. So now we've come full circle, because now Megan here works for us. We brought her in under the tent, too. But before she came to us, she cut her chops at Scottrade and the St. Louis Behemoth Anheuser-Busch and learned all there was to know about marketing. We're thrilled that she is in our world now. You should be, too. She has so much to share with you, not just today, but ongoing, about your place in the world as it relates to how you express your brand and your value to your clients. So without further ado, please welcome my friend and colleague, Megan Beckmeyer.
Thank you. That was such a nice intro. I'm thrilled to be here, and as a relatively new member of the Buckingham team, this is my first conference. It's just been incredible to see the connectivity and all of you coming together from all over the country, and it's been really fun to chat with a bunch of you, and I'm looking forward to doing more of that. And I know this is a tough time slot, so feel free to stretch, stand up, move around in the room if you so need to, and also just to stay warm. Okay, let's dive in. What's cooking in the competition? We're going to talk a little bit today about what is our competition. How do we define the competitive landscape in today's financial services ecosystem, and also be encouraged by really evaluating the competition and other firms out there doing things well. We're going to spend a little time looking at the national landscape and some of the big firms, what they're really doing, how they're positioning themselves in the marketplace as points of differentiation and firms that are on the move. And we're going to spend the bulk majority of today talking about the, I'll call, local landscape, independent RIAs, firms in local markets who are really bringing some best marketing practices to bear. And I have some insights to share with you. And in the spirit of what Tim Maurer challenged us all this morning to, I am hoping that this session will prove fruitful in just that I will be able to give you a few insights, a few nuggets to glean from this presentation that you can take with you. I also recognize that in your day-to-day lives, it's not easy to kind of compartmentalize marketing and put that hat on. So let's have some fun over the next hour. I want it to be interactive. I'm going to just spend 1 minute on my background because Meredith kind of set it up. So as she said, I have had kind of an unorthodox way into the financial services space. I started my marketing career in Chicago at an agency called Jack Morton, and then I moved to St. Louis, where I spent 10 years at Anheuser-Busch, overseeing our media strategy and consumer connections. And it was really there that I developed a passion for marketing and the value and role it plays in growing businesses, both for performance and long-term equity. I left AB because I have 4 young kids, and I spent 5 years doing independent consulting. My little consulting company was called First Day, employee size 1. And from there, I got reconnected with Buckingham, and it's just been awesome the last year to get up to speed on the industry and the business, and I joined the team full-time a few months ago. So with that, I'd love to hear from you. What's the first firm you think of, the first company you think of when I acknowledge competition or a competitor of yours? Don't be shy. Who's someone you think about? Amazon, okay? Come on. Why'd you sign up for this session? Anyone else? Schwab. Fisher, Edelman. Anyone else? Merrill Lynch? Do-it-yourselfers. Great. I think the reason we heard such varied answers here, all the way from do-it-yourself to Amazon to the big spenders, direct marketers, is because this is a time of great change in the industry and the landscape. And there's really a convergence of service offerings, a lot of firms saying they all do what we do in the best interest of our clients, and how can we really make sense of that on behalf of our prospective and existing clients? There's also obviously a lot of consolidation going on in the industry. For those of you that attended Justin Ferry's session yesterday, you heard him acknowledge that 5 years in a row, we've set a record for a number of consolidation transactions that have taken place, and we're expecting that trend to continue. And regulatory issues that continue to press on some of the bigger providers and those that sell products. So, and the last piece here is obviously there's a growth in the need for varied service offerings as our clients continue to age up, their lives get more complex, increased wealth adds layers of complexity. And so I think this convergence and this kind of convoluted way to sift through what the competition is best illustrated in this non-academic survey. Several months ago, I asked people internally at Buckingham to just vote on who they think our top competitors are. And here you see the results. You see kind of a long tail, many of whom you mentioned already. You see Vanguard at the top, Creative Planning, Merrill Lynch, Do It Yourself had a couple votes, and so on. And I think what this really tells us is if you look at the top four, you have Vanguard #1, Creative Planning #2, Moneta #3, which is a local St. Louis-based RIA, so there you see kind of an over-index of St. Louis employees. Merrill Lynch is #4. In those results, you have a mutual fund, a national RIA we'll call Creative Planning, a regional RIA, and a wirehouse. And the fifth, Schwab, as a custodian. And so the competitive landscape is vast, and it's only expanding, right? We have a host of national firms we're looking at and the local advisors nearby as well that we're sizing our own practices up against. And that's not all. As you so rightly acknowledged, we have to think about what the future competitive landscape will look like with these tech behemoths that have unlimited amounts of data on clients and prospects that they are going to continue to harness and really tap into. If you look at what Apple's done this year in just upsetting the credit card industry and really starting to keep existing legacy businesses on their toes for how they service clients and what they offer. In fact, if you look at this chart from Envestnet's latest trends, on the left you see that 30% of clients agree that a technology company would be a strong competitor with banks or other financial firms. Now today, only 18% say that they would be open to switching, but that perception and that change will continue to evolve as these tech companies take, more space into our everyday homogeneous lives. And one other point I'll say about the competition before we dive in, I think Alex said it best this morning, that really there is so much opportunity in front of us. In the RIA and the independent channel, it's up and to the right? If you look at trends in clients, they want independent, unbiased advice, and this channel will continue to grow. So of all the assets available out there, we have such a small percent of those today that when thinking about the competition, it's not looking at it with a threatening lens of something, that there's plenty to go around. We need to look at the competition as, with enthusiasm to learn new things, to see who's setting the pace out there of connecting with our prospective clients in ways that really hit the mark. So with that, I want to share with you a couple of observations on national firms. The first being Vanguard. What's the first thing you think about when you hear the word Vanguard or think of the company Vanguard?
Low cost.
Low cost. Anybody else? Market returns. If you go onto any channel that is Vanguard, you hit the nail on the head. They want you to know. In every industry, someone has to be the low-cost leader, and Vanguard wants to be in that space. They want to be known for low costs. All of the language, we're at it again, lowering costs. Create your own portfolio by combining low costs. Just consistently low cost, low cost. So you see there, this is their brand position. They're proud of it. They're unabashed in wanting to be the low cost leader. Additionally, they want you to know the investors in control. If you want to do it yourself, they're your partner. If you need an advisor, they're here for you. And when you arrive on their website, or if you look at some of their social tools, they're providing the information, the tools, the insights that you need to take your choice on how you want to engage with them. Next, creative planning. What's the first thing you think of when you think of creative planning? What'd you say? Planning, okay. Tony Robbins. TV exposure. Great. I feel like I set you guys up. Their messaging is really simple, right? They want you to know it's about a method for planning, and they don't want to bog you down with laborious vernacular details of how they work. It's very simple messaging with clear segmentation. They want to provide services on behalf of emerging wealth, private wealth management, and ultra affluent. So you fit somewhere on that spectrum. More importantly, though, for those of you that are following closely with this group, they want to be a household brand name in the RIA space, and they're bold about how they communicate that in the media and in the press. They feel strongly that in 5 years we're going to wake up and there's going to be a few RIAs that are household brand names, just like the wirehouses of today. And so you've seen them take a much more aggressive approach to advertising, marketing, and also, honestly, a rising tide floats all boats, because their communication in their television advertising is really around the value of fiduciary and what that means to clients. So that's helpful for all of us in the industry. But you see here, I think they're doing away with Tony Robbins a little bit and really elevating Peter Mallouk to be the spokesperson. And they're also taking an approach to reach people in much more broad-reaching vehicles. So you have here an example of a podcast that Peter Mallouk has showed up on the Tim Ferriss Show, which is a cultural podcast that's quite popular. And here you see he made the list on Worth Magazine's top 100 most influential people in the finance industry. And then this last strip down here are the 3 TV spots. If you haven't seen them, you might go onto YouTube to peruse them. I don't think they're on air nationally anymore, but they've spent close to $20 million this year just on national television. And the other point that I think is really interesting here, they're buying programming that is far beyond the usual suspects of our industry, right? You would expect them to show up on MSNBC, CNBC, what have you. But they spent $6 million in the NCAA tournament last year. This is programming that has mass reach and scale for a much broader audience, and it's DVR proof. So they're investing in high profile, expensive programming. Okay. We're going to shift gears now to the local side of the business. But first, before we do that, I want to just really dig in for a minute. When you think about using various types of communication vehicles and touch points to reach your clients or prospective clients, I think the most important thing as marketers is to get into the heads and the reality of your clients and your prospects' daily lives. So I want to share a couple of statistics with you. The first being that the average person in the US spends 4 hours on their phone every day. And when I was actually going through this presentation with my dad, who's 70, and he's like, Megan, I just don't believe that. I mean, no one wants to talk on the phone anymore. And I was like, no, Dad, not on the phone, but they're literally on the phone. So anyway, if you think about that, they're busy, they're distracted, and these statistics further illustrate that. In the last 60 seconds that I've been talking, 4.3 million YouTube videos have been viewed, 97,000 hours of Netflix content has been streamed, 470,000 tweets have been shared, 50,000 Instagram posts have been posted, maybe some of you in the back are doing that right now, and 4 million Google searches. So what's the point here? People are busy doing who knows what, right? But they're distracted. There's instantaneous entertainment, connectivity available to them at all times. And when you think about that from a business perspective, the first point in marketing is that their time is the ultimate commodity. And we need to be respectful of it. We need to be considerate of it. Gone are the days that clients or prospects want to spend hours reading papers and all the words that our industry loves to conjure up. We need to be efficient in our communications, and we need to find a way to be relevant and cut through. When I was putting this presentation together, this is the part that excites me the most, because I think about all of you that have an opportunity to connect at the local level. And while national firms have, scale and they have the bigness of their name and their, legacy brands, your superpower is that you can be local, you can be relevant, you have the upper hand in building the relationships that are so meaningful to your day-to-day clients and in your community. When you think about communication best practices, with those insights in mind, you want to be able to quickly and compellingly explain what you do. No jargon, no prolific statements. Like, what's the elevator pitch that's interesting? And how is it tailored to who and why you get out of bed to help every day? As much as you can, incorporate visuals, interactivity. Think about your own behavior when you go to a website or when you're looking at something that engages you. What draws you in? Keeping it simple, again, no jargon, and then focus on who you're in the business of helping. I can't say this enough. This is why, if you think about, if you read any marketing textbook, it begins and ends with the end client and the end consumer. So to that point, we're going to dig in, and I'm going to show you several examples, and I'm moving kind of fast. I should stop and say, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. I'd love to hear from you, anything I can answer or clarify. But I have put together several examples, mostly from outside our network of advisors and group here, but there are a few examples that are from advisors that work in our network. And the hope is, again, that you'll just take away some good ideas or things that may be applicable to you. The first area I want to touch on is authenticity. Again, going back to the advantage and the leg up you have, it's that what will make you unique and differentiate you in a sea of service providers that are all saying they can do the same thing as you is finding a way to bring yourself, your team, your approach, your culture to life. So if you had to think about, like, if your best friend wrote down 3 adjectives about you, think about what those adjectives would be. And I was talking to some people about video earlier today. And yes, there's a role for video, but if you're going to do video, that video should represent those 3 adjectives you said you could define about yourself or your business. Okay, so here's a few examples of firms that I think are living their most authentic lives. The first is Stash Wealth. How many of you have heard of Stash Wealth out of New York? Okay, to me, this is a marketing textbook of being hyper-focused on one audience group that they really want to service, and that is the Henrys, right? You go to their website, home of the Henrys since 2013. All of their communication taps into the psychographic realities of this generation. And I'm going to read you some of the text here. This is an Instagram post up here. We want our boozy brunch, our avocado toast, our rosé, our travel, our Uber, and our Soul Cycle. And guess what? You can have all of that and still not F up all of your big financial priorities down the road. Stalk us on social media. That's the perfect insight to this generation, right? They're not just going to look someone up. They want to size their own life up against other people that they're looking at on social media. If you look at the articles down here, these are links to some articles on their website. The first reads, New Retirement Contribution Limits and Why You Might Want to Ignore Them. How to have hard conversations with your parents and why you need to, right? This is the generation that's going to inherit the money from the boomers. The Roth IRA in a nutshell, and what to do with your old job, with your old 401k when you switch jobs. This is the generation on the move. So you can see here, the other point I want to make about Stash that I think is important is, again, going back to reach, they are focused on, if they want to reach Henrys and millennials, this is the group that's getting married, they're fixing up their apartment, they're going out, they have an irreverent sensibility, many of them, in how they connect to cultural reference points. And so you can see here, this is where they tout their media coverage. There's a lot of credible financial media outlets up there, but they also show up in Brides Magazine. They show up on Domino Online, which is a home decor website. Deadspin, you can see Girl Boss. So these are places that are a bit unorthodox for what you would normally see in our industry, but it's a great way to target who they care about. This is another good post, I thought. What the F is fiduciary? And simply put, we got sick of the bull, and this is kind of their manifesto for why they got into business, and there you can see the Wall Street bull laying dead. Okay, now I'm going to do a complete 180. This is Minetta in St. Louis, and they have a very strong brand for high-touch service. Many of you have probably heard of Minetta, even though they're, up until very recently, they only had an office in St. Louis. Now they have one also in in Denver, Colorado, but they make no bones about who they want to service, right? If you look at the language and how they lay out their service capability. Our exceptional team, we can never do too much for our clients. Here's a personal mission statement from one of their advisors. If we promise something in 1 week, I like to deliver it in 1 day. 48-1 in terms of family CFO client to advisor ratio versus 100-1 in the industry. Additionally, if you look at the imagery, they have 2 business models. Number one, the family CFO. This is really their wealth management offering, and then their family office. You look at the imagery, here's obviously an older couple that are sailing on a yacht. So they know who they are in service of, and their brand is built around that. Additionally, I saw just this weekend in terms of like local sponsorship and engaging in the fabric of the culture and the community, they were sponsoring an event at Neiman Marcus, a kind of fashion fun incubator. So they really know how to tap into the higher upper echelon potential clientele. Okay, this is, I think, a great example of an advisor who really figured out what he was passionate about and built an entire brand around this. This is Roger Whitney, and he is from Texas. And 7 or 8 years ago, he started a podcast that was called Live Well, Be Well. And in talking to him, he's like, that didn't mean anything to anyone. So he changed the podcast, he changed his website, he changed all of his marketing materials to be around the retirement answer man. And he has built, how many of you, have you guys ever heard of him? He is consistently ranked, if you search retirement on podcasts on Apple, he comes up first. He's done 290 podcasts. On average, he gets almost 13,000 people listening to each podcast or downloading each podcast. And according to him, this is the best client prospecting he's ever done in 30 years in the business because people listen to his podcast. They hear what he has to say, they get familiar and comfortable with his philosophy, his approach to how he services clients, and then they reach out to him. So unbeknownst to him, they've built a relationship with him and they're already bought in. Now he travels, he lives in a different state 1 month a year. Him and his wife are empty nesters, and he's just loving what he's doing. He has clients all over the country. But I think, again, going back to the point of this around authenticity, he has carved a niche for himself about who he's passionate serving in his own voice and found a way to really exploit that. The last example I want to share with you in authenticity is Aspiriant out of San Francisco, although they have several offices. And I think there's 2 points here that I want to illustrate. The first is they've taken obviously a unique graphic and illustrative approach to their marketing and their brand positioning and kind of a cheeky way of communicating it. Some wealth management firms go back 150 years, we go forward 150 years. And the other point that I think is worth mentioning is people that come to their website, most of them are likely prospects, right? They've heard about the company, maybe they have a meeting set up and they want to just go spend a little time. If you're a prospective client, how does this make you feel? Over here you see the client experience, everything else, and that's the nav bar. So when you click into client experience, this is the next page you see. We built our firm to be very different from most others. Instead of worried, you feel. Again, tapping into the emotional side of what's at stake when people want to go meet with a new financial advisor or explore their options. You feel loved, you feel powerful, you feel brainy, farsighted, and the last one, richer, which I love that double entendre. So again, this is just a point of view, but it's distinct and it's unique, and this theme and this positioning of theirs is carried out in all of their touch points. The next category I want to spend some time on is niche. And just even in the last 24 hours, I've had several conversations with various advisors around this topic. And I know this is a question that comes to us often. What niche should I focus on? Or I want to really dig in on some key areas. And that thinking is very important as you look at long-term trends in the industry and how to really differentiate yourself. Here's some data from XYPN's annual benchmarking survey. This is Michael Kitces Network. And if you look at firms in the launch phase, so new advisors just starting out, firms that have no niche focus, they obviously grow very quickly initially in the first year, right? Because they're reaching out to a mass audience group, leveraging all their contacts. But then if you look as they move out of the launch phase and into the grow phase, so this is maybe years 2 to 5, you start to see the exponential growth with a niche firm focus. And then you look at scale where it's 5 years or more, and the revenue growth is staggering for those that have niche focus. And this is because you're able to really dive in or drive into expertise and pull referrals much easier for a smaller subset of clients. Another statistic on that I found really interesting was from the FA Insights study by TD Ameritrade. Advisory firms that truly serve target markets had a median 35% higher growth in clients than firms that didn't, while revenue growth and profit margins were a respective 25 and 17% higher. So this isn't saying don't service anyone, it's just saying if you have expertise and areas of focus, you need to exploit and communicate them. I'm going to show you a few examples here. This is a young advisor out of Lexington, Kentucky, and he's focused on clearly helping young physicians and dentists find financial peace. Everything on his website and in his offerings speak to that, right? 68% of physicians under age 40 don't have an estate plan. 5% of young physicians consider themselves knowledgeable on the topic. And this is staggering, but the average dollar amount student loan debt for someone coming out of medical school is $180,000. If you dig in further on his website, Differentiator, he's clearly focused on servicing physicians, and you can even download a free financial guide targeted specifically for young physicians. Similarly, here is Cook, and they're out of the Carolinas. They're a financial planning group dedicated to servicing dentists. And one thing I know we have a lot of various BAM firms that are focused on dentists, and I thought this was just interesting that he actually has a picture of a dental office on the website. So this is where they're comfortable living here, right? How refreshing for a dentist to land on this page and see, oh, this is where I spend my time every day. They get it. This is the last example. I sat next to Erin at lunch. Where are you, Erin? Way in the back. Okay. This is TFS out of Washington, and the point here that I want to make is they have done a great job. Boeing, obviously headquartered in Washington, really leveraging their expertise in working with Boeing employees. And if you go to their website, they dig in on a host of questions that Boeing employees might be asking around benefits, long-term planning, et cetera. And the other thing, this came up yesterday in the marketing session. I don't know how many of you were in yesterday's marketing session with Ivan, but someone asked a question about search and SEO versus SEM. And this is a great example of when your web page is built well and it's tagged well and indexed well, you organically and naturally show up in search results. So when I search Boeing Financial Advisor, they are the first listing that comes up. And that's because Google and the other search engines, they're in the business of getting people where they think you want to be, right? So the search engines are looking at if someone searches for a specific keyword or or information on something, if they land on a page and they stay there, that elevates your ranking versus if they land on a page and they bounce right off. So people that are landing here are obviously finding the information that they need. And that's different than search engine optimization. That's something you do on your own when you build your website and ongoing as you refresh content and add content. You need to make sure that you're tagging your information, tagging your content with the crux of what that content entails so that search engines can find it and get people routed to it effectively. Search engine marketing is where you actually invest to amplify your search results, and it's used as more of a competitive tactic if you want to buy keywords. Okay, the last example I want to share with you in niche is a company called Ellevest. How many of you are familiar with Ellevest? Great. This is a company that was founded by Sally Krawcheck, who's a financial industry legend, if you will, and when she left Merrill Lynch several years ago, she declared it her life's mission to help females improve their financial stature, both in terms of investment and also in terms of closing the gender pay gap. And so she created the platform Ellevest. They do such a great job of being single-minded in focus on educating women across a host of financial topics. The model began as more of a robo-advisor, right? It's an online investing platform. However, they are really expanding now to have live advisors that you can work with. And if you go to their job postings, they have probably 20 listings looking for advisors. So it's going to be interesting to see how this company continues to grow. And this is clearly a moment for them, right? This is the time to capitalize on the female empowerment movement. And that's just what they're doing in language. If you look at them from a marketing perspective, the best time to invest, yesterday. Invest like a woman, very empowering language. 3 ways to invest: Ellevest Digital, Ellevest Premium, and Private Wealth, right? And the call to action is so strong. Start right now. Annual fee, 25 basis points, which for an average woman, she might not know what that means, so they just break it down. That's $12.50 a year if you have $5,000. That seems so non-intimidating, right? That's very non-threatening. Additionally, they are doing a great job leveraging social media channels and outlets. This top is the pop-up box that came to my browser as soon as I got on their webpage. What the L? Slay at work, be the boss of your money, and own your future. Sign up. And when I did sign up, this is what it says. Your inbox says it feels smarter already. Welcome to What the L. And then it gives you a list of the content that they're going to provide you. And this right here is a Facebook ad, although I've gotten the same ads on LinkedIn. Again, this language, download, sign up, slay, right? This is just all really playing into women can own their own financial freedom and their financial future. Any questions up to this point? How am I doing on time? Oh, ooh. Any questions? No? Okay. This last section is really designed around format and channel best practices. So I'm going to click through here. The first is, let's talk about websites. And I think when you're evaluating your website, this is obviously the most natural starting point in marketing, right? What is your presence online? What is on your website? The first question you need to ask yourself is, how long do people actually spend on a website? And in most instances, that's about 1 to 2 minutes. So there are the select few that are coming to really look for something, or they need a resource, or they want to read up on a topic. But like even at Buckingham, the most visited page on our website is the people page. They want to see what people's pictures, what they look like, what their background is. So keep that in mind as you're building your website, right? You have to have an objective. Why are you trying to drive people there? And if you had 1 to 2 minutes to spend with them, what do you want them to do? Take away data you want to capture. So let's look at this. This is Mercer Advisors. This is a very nicely laid out website. You can see here the scrolling bar of content. The first thing you're going to hear about is grow your wealth with a top-ranked advisor. Immediately a chatbot came onto my page. Hey, how can we help you? Additionally, other calls to actions right away. They want to capture your information. They know you might leave, and they want to know who you are before you go. The other point I'll make here, and this is an important one, is remember the statistic at the beginning of the presentation that people are spending 4 hours a day on their phone. That's more than on a desktop. Excuse me. This experience I had with their website was exactly the same on my phone. So this is very important when you're working on website redesign, to make sure that the experience is just as good on the phone. Next, this is such a simple thing to implement, and Ivan mentioned it yesterday that we're working on how to offer this to everyone, but this is 2 different websites you're seeing. The one on the left is Hill Investment Group, which is out of St. Louis, and the one on the right is Abacus out of California. And in both instances, they are giving the prospective client, they're putting them in control, right? And this is so counter to how we think of our business. We think of it as, oh, it's this high-touch business that we have to build these relationships, and that is true. But in today's day and age, with as connected as people are on their phones, they want to be more anonymous than ever. And this is a great entry point for people to reach out. I mean, this is just how people want to engage today. As I was putting this presentation together, I was thinking for myself, like when it's time for me to get my hair done, which I need to do more and more often with all the grays, I don't want to call to make an appointment. I want to just text someone or go online to make the appointment. So this is a simple enhancement to test. This is a case study I want to share with you that I'm that I think is really unique. So this is BOS out of San Francisco. They have 2 offices, one in San Francisco and one in San Jose. And 4 years ago, they made a concerted decision as a firm to hire someone focused on marketing. They did that for a host of reasons. Number one, they're in an area of such unbelievable wealth. And in many instances in the tech space, that wealth is being realized by very young clients. So the partners of the firm gave a directive for marketing to lower the, yeah. It is, yep, yes. So they gave a directive to marketing to lower the average age of the client and increase the average assets under management for each client. So with that, they rolled out a new positioning, and you can see it speaks just to that, right? All walks of wealth, all of the imagery showcases a host of people at various life stages. And again, as soon as you arrive on their website, you're being drawn into a chat. You can see here I was chatting with a guy that I met at a forum. And this is really amazing. The head of marketing shared this with us, that in the last 4 years, because they've really focused on marketing, they've invested in advertising, they've done outreach on social media and other local channels. They have lowered the average age of their clients from 72 to 60, and the average assets under management from $4 million to $8.5 million. Okay, let's talk about video for a minute. There is so much out there by way of video, right? So much content people can consume that I would just encourage you. This is one example I wanted to share with you with PWL in Ottawa, Canada. And Ben Felix is a relatively young advisor that they hired a few years ago. And they let him do a video series. They put it out on YouTube. They don't do anything to promote it. But he is, again, clearly speaking to a younger audience group. They add the graphic treatments in-house, and then they do work with an external production company to kind of take out the ums and clean up the video. But they have almost 70 videos out there, and you can see from some of these view numbers, 46,000, 30,000, 22,000, 800,000, 114,000. They've really been able to tap into video content that young prospects and young individuals are interested in consuming. And I'll just talk briefly about video best practices, because I think, this is a time where just test things and try it. And you don't know what you're going to throw out there that might stick, but you're going to learn a lot about formats. And I think this is one of the things that's challenging media, and opportunity to connect with clients and prospects in different ways is changing so rapidly all the time that I think it can feel overwhelming, right? Like, I don't know how to do that. But just test it, try it, get comfortable with the technology, and you can kind of start to see on a small scale what is working. Additionally, think about the audience you want to focus on and identify who's best suited to communicate to that audience. Be authentic, have a clean background, and also be respectful of people's time, right? The likelihood of them wanting to watch a 4, 6, 8-minute video is very low. Okay, last section around social media. So the idea that something is thumb stopping, if you put yourself in the mindset of how you consume your Facebook feed, your LinkedIn feed, your Instagram feed, right? Most often the sound is off, and you are just mindlessly going through it, right? So what are you going to post that's going to make someone want to have their thumb actually stop? One best practice that's very important in video is most people are looking at content in meetings, at work, while they're doing something else, at the dentist's office, what have you. They're not listening to it. So make sure you have subtitles on any video that you may put on social media or other channels. Additionally, with imagery, this is important to think about. We have so much to say by way of text, but you can make things far more shareable with rich content, right? So the human brain processes images much more quickly than text. Tweets with images receive 150% more retweets than those that are text only. On Facebook, posts with imagery get 2.5 times more engagement. So if you look at these examples, I think these are great ones where they're not only using images, but they're using clever images in most instances, right? So here you see Ellevest, here's all the covers with female leaders on business magazines. I thought this was a great example from Betterment. They were rolling out tax rules for residents of Philadelphia. What better to use than a Philly cheesesteak sandwich picture? And the last example I have is, how many of you are familiar with the idea of an infographic? Great. Infographics are basically image-based pictorials to tell a story or communicate information and data. And Carson Wealth is doing a great job using this as a way to communicate a financial story, really, and to bring to life concepts. So here you see on the left, how much is $1 million? And they kind of break down what that means to clients who always say, I want to be a millionaire. What does that look like? What does that get you? And here you see another graphic around divorce planning. Schwab also does a great job, although their infographics are a little bit more academic, but they have a whole section on their website dedicated to infographics and information that's displayed that's really focused on bringing it to life visually. I want to close with a couple resources. So yesterday, for those of you that attended the marketing session, these are two important partners for us. Number one, Advisor Websites. And this is a partnership that we forged to really help all of our advisors enhance their websites. Number two is PowerPost to help build social content and distribute it. And here are a couple other resources that I think are great. The first is Kaleidoscope Creative Studio. I highly recommend subscribing to their weekly newsletter. Each week they post just a great tip, something easy to do or think about from a marketing perspective. This website is Advisor Jam, and you can see what they do. We make cool videos for financial advisors. They're actually kicking off today a do-it-yourself video workshop. I met Candace, who's the owner, and she's just a very creative, interesting person that's really passionate about helping financial advisors. And then two others around lead generation, Snappy Kraken and FMG Suite, both of whom can help automate to drive better prospecting online. You guys, thank you. I covered a lot, I know, and I really appreciate you spending your time with me. Does anyone have a question that I can answer, or thought, comment? I think the best way to answer that is a niche has to be a group that you're both passionate about and also qualified to service at a very deep, deep level. And so obviously those practices are built over time. I think, there are, in almost every major city, right, there's a headquarters. So that's a natural one to consider if you have a client base that, let's say St. Louis, you have a lot of Anheuser-Busch clients. That's a natural one to start to kind of build on top of, or certainly look for those opportunities locally. Thank you again so much. Enjoy your afternoon.